tracking over the holidays. Very, very challenging because obviously as a coach, I'm always talking about accuracy and making sure that everything can be as accurate and consistent as possible. Over the holidays, with the inherent challenges that poses, the social events, the family gatherings, the travel, etc., sheer accuracy for most people is going to become an impossibility, at least on certain days, right? So how do we handle this when you're eating out, you have year-end events for work, you are eating at other people's houses, friends, family that are preparing things for you? It can be pretty tricky, and a lot of people then use that as a platform to say, okay, well, I'm not going to track. Definitely not the right decision, because as I've said to most of you, I've said to most of my clients, some data is better than nothing. Even if it is just an estimate, at least we have something to work with. From a coaching perspective, but from an individual perspective, it can also be useful because even if it's not super accurate, having some gauge of what you're eating, at least total caloric value, can mentally help you to just dial things back and manage things and not regress too much over this period of time. Remember that while 99% of people are picking up a huge amounts of weight and fat over this period of time, even if you are not making progress, even if you're just maintaining, you are still ahead of the 99% of people and what they're doing over this period of time. So some data, even if it may not be 100% accurate, will always be reasonably helpful. All right, so how do we handle this? Well, I'm going to be recording my screen so you can take a little look at in terms of what I'm doing. And I'm going to be using the inbuilt tracking app in the Kahuna's platform. So my first pass here would be mentally understand that this is an estimation. There is going to be a margin for error and you just need to accept that. The second part would be if you have a day where you can be 100% accurate and consistent, do it. Why not? But on a day where there is a challenge, let's say you're going out for dinner, you're going to a restaurant, you're not preparing that food, you don't know what it entails, this is how I would handle it. Step one, track that meal first. Why would you track that meal first? Because generally, it's going to be the most calorific, it's going to be the most calorie dense, therefore, we want to build our other meals around that one, okay? So, let's say I'm going to an Italian restaurant, I'm going to have a seafood pasta. I've looked at the menu ahead of time, that is a very important point. Look at the menu ahead of time and decide what you want to eat ahead of time, all right? And I see here, my general rule of thumb would be to choose an option which seems in excess of what it's actually going to be, all right? So I see an option here that is 1,280 calories. Okay, I would much rather have the strategy of overestimating than underestimating. Okay, so this is showing 83 grams of protein, 112 carbs, and 47 grams of fat. I'm going to track that as it is because it is more than likely an overestimation. But if we overestimate and therefore we slightly undereat for the day, that is a much better scenario than underestimating and then drastically overeating for the remainder of the day. All right? So you can see that I've now plugged that in, and that means that I'm going to have to fit my other meals around that. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and plug in my other meals for the day, and I'll come back when that's done. All right, we are back, and you can see that I've basically just added in my standard meals as I would normally eat them, and what that has taken us to is me being at 3,420 calories versus my assigned 2,735. Now you can see that I'm 30 grams over in protein, I'm about 33 grams over in carbs, but I'm about 30 grams over in fat. So that is going to be the biggest contributing factor in terms of why I'm going over my calories. Now, if we can manage this and still hit our macros, that would be the first prize, right? So I'm first of all going to try and manage my fats. So I'm going to take out the almond butter from meal one because that is a predominant source of fat. In meal 2, I'm going to take out the whole egg and replace that with a little bit more in the way of egg whites. Okay? And then you can see that's really the only sources of added fats that I have for the day, but you can see that I'm still like 18 grams over in fat. There's nothing that I can do about that because it is that restaurant meal that's contributing 47 grams, and that is what it is. So then what do we do? Well, then we go, okay, if we are going to be not hitting our macros perfectly, if we are going to be going over in fats, at the very least what we can do is still manage our protein intake and manage our overall caloric intake, okay? So the first part here would be, are we managing protein? Yes, we're actually exceeding our protein goal, and that's still contributing calories. So let's bring down some of the protein servings to align a little bit more closely with that 240 number, all right? So now I'm bringing down the protein a little bit. We're at 249 now. And now we are at 238, which is good. Now we're within range, and now we're only about 400 calories over for the day. Now, because I can't bring down fats anymore, that means that I'm going to have to bring down my carbohydrates in order to bring down that calorie load, all right? So I'm just going to start slowly adjusting these carbohydrate amounts meal by meal. I'm going to even change my intra-workout drink to make that a little bit less. I'm going to take out this wrap for meal 3. I'm going to lower my oats for meal 4. All right, and now what you'll see is that we're sitting at 2,770 calories, which is only 35 calories over where we are supposed to be for the day. I can see that my protein is a little bit low, so I am going to have to push that up. Okay, now we're aligned with protein again, and if I want to be really specific about my calories, I can actually further bring down some of my carbohydrate sources. Okay, yeah, so there we go. Now we're sitting at 2,774 calories. My goal is 2,735. We're about 40 calories off. We're good to go. So, how did I manage that? Number 1, like I said, acknowledging that this is going to be an estimation and we may not be able to hit exact macros. Number 2, logging the meal that I'm eating out, the highest calorie meal, the restaurant meal, whatever the case is, logging it first so that I can fit my other meals around it, okay? The third thing that I did was log the rest of my meals as I would normally have them and look at the net result. Where am I over? Where am I potentially under? And then start making those amendments to fit in with my macros. At the point that I realized that because the heaviest calorically dense meal was so high in fat that I was never going to be able to hit my fats for the day, I reverted to going, okay, all I need to focus on here is hitting my protein and hitting my calories, and started amending my portion sizes so at least my daily calories fell in line. Is this optimal? No, it's not 100% optimal, surely is not, but we're talking about a couple of days here, 1 or 2 per week, just over the holiday season, where if you use this strategy, you're still going to be able to, at the very least, maintain your progress. And that is what we're shooting for at this particular stage of the year.